All right, so it's time to talk about listening. What's something that we probably don't practice enough, but that can hugely impact our success in life? That is listening. In my opinion, we don't spend nearly enough time practicing that skill of just listening to something and comprehending it. Sounds simple, but a lot of times we have visual cues and things like that that we rely on. So we are going to practice just listening to a text and understanding its purpose. It says here, we are going to practice listening to different types of speeches, but it's important to note that what we practice here will help you with your ability to hear and understand instructions from teachers or employers. That could be now or in the future. I don't know if everybody here has a job or has had one, but a lot of times, different jobs, you will just be given verbal instructions from your boss, and you need to be able to quickly hear and understand and do whatever they say. So basically, this could lead to much greater success. This could mean higher grades for you in high school, or if you choose to go to college thereafter. It could mean more money, because the more successful you are, the easier it is for you to digest all types of instructions, probably the better you will be promoted. So it might sound far-fetched, but it's absolutely true that people who can listen to instructions or to anything in a work setting or in a school setting and understand it well, they're going to be more successful. So it says here, when somebody delivers a speech, we listen and determine what the point of the speech is. So we ask ourselves, what effect is the speaker trying to have on the audience, which is you, and it's important to know that. What are they trying to do with me? Okay. It's time to learn all about speaker's purpose. That's what this is called. So this target is all about purpose. So it says learning target SL purpose. That's the name of this learning target that we are trying to master with this playlist. SL means speaking, listening, okay? And purpose is the speaker's purpose. So by the end of this playlist, your goal is to be able to say, I can analyze the speaker's purpose. Now this word analyze might sound confusing to you, but don't worry, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that and what I expect you to do. As always, remember to use and reuse all of the resources in this playlist to help you master this learning target. You might have to go back and redo a few steps. You might need to listen to something more than once because you're practicing that skill. That is absolutely fine. Please don't hesitate to do that. You do it until you feel like you can make this statement here. And if I've tested you over that, then you would be successful. Okay, speaking of testing and assessment, let's look at our proficiency scale for this target. So this is how you would be graded for the assessment at the end of this playlist. Note that the activities within the playlist are for me to give you feedback and for you to gauge how ready you are for the assessment and comfortable you are with it. So the assessment is what's going to be graded. So to get a 1 out of 5, which would roughly amount to a 20%, that means you cannot correctly identify a speaker's purpose just by listening to the speech. 2, which would be roughly a 40%, can perhaps correctly identify a speaker's purpose, but cannot provide appropriate evidence from the speech to support their answer. Okay, so let's look at what's passing this target. A 3, which is a 60%, which is passing, means that not only can you correctly identify the speaker's purpose, but you can provide evidence from the speech, which would mean paraphrasing the speaker's words to support your answer. So you can tell me what type of speech that is, and you can actually reference things that the speaker said. So of course you'll be jotting down notes and things like that as you listen to help you with that. All right, let's look at how we can go above and beyond to get a 4, which would be a B. That means you can do everything that's listed here, and also you can explain in your own words what each type of speech purpose is. And you don't know what I mean by that yet, but I will explain here in just a moment. And then to get a 5, which is knocking out of the park, as close to 100% as you can get, you can do everything for a 3, everything for a 4, and also you're going to plan and deliver a very short, very, very short speech to our class about a book that you completed for independent reading. And then afterwards, you would write and turn in to me a brief explanation as to what that speech purpose was and why. Okay, so you might notice a lot of times to get to a 5, it somehow relates to your independent reading book. So it is important that you're keeping up with independent reading, and we want to tie that in as much as possible because those are texts that you get to select yourself. So I try to tie it to that because I think it would be more enjoyable for you because you have a lot of freedom with which text you select. Okay, so that's the proficiency scale. So here's a very brief overview about what we're talking about here in this playlist. So if you're preparing to analyze a speech for its purpose, you need to keep in mind, and by the way, I sort of answered what I mean by analyze if you look at the proficiency scale. So analyzing means that you not only can identify the type of purpose, but you can give evidence for it from the speech. That's how we're going to approach analysis here. So if you're preparing to do that, keep this in mind. There are 3 main, and this is all about determining which one the speech is. One purpose is to inform, and that's called an informative speech. Another purpose is to persuade, which means, of course, to try to convince the audience either to do something or convince them that something is true. That might be controversial. That's a persuasive speech. Maybe it could be to persuade you to buy something. And finally, we have to entertain, an entertaining speech. So these are the 3 purposes. There's only 3, so that should eliminate some of your anxieties if you have any. When you listen to these speeches, you are simply trying to decide which one of these 3 that this is. And of course, in the playlist, I'm going to break these 3 down in detail, and you will read about and hear about what these mean, okay, and see examples. So as you are listening to them, you are trying to decide, is it informing me? Is it persuading me? Is it entertaining me?